Let's look at the first algorithm in this section. We want to count the number of vowels in a string. So in this section, we're going to implement all of our methods in this class, string utils. This is a container for a bunch of utility functions around strings. So let's add a new method here, public. I'm going to make this static so we don't have to create an instance of this class. This is a common convention for implementing utility methods. We declare them as static, okay? Here we want to return an integer. We call the method count vowels and give it a string. So here we should declare a count variable. Then we need to iterate over this string, get each character, and then see if this character is one of the vowels in English. So these vowels are A, E, I, O, and U. So let's add a for loop here for each character in string. Now, you know that in Java, we cannot use a for each loop on a string. We have to convert it to a character array. So here we call toChar array. Now, let me show you the poor way of writing this code. The poor way is to have an if statement with 5 conditions like this. If character equals A, or it equals E, or it equals I, and so on. This is a really ugly way of implementing this code. A better way is to store these vowels in a string, and here check to see if that string contains the current character. So here I'm going to declare a string called vowels. We set it to A, E, I, O, U. Okay. Now, in our for each loop, instead of having 5 conditions, we simply write if vowels.index of current character does not equal -1. We could also use the contains method. Now, this method expects a character sequence. So we cannot pass this character here. We have to convert it to a string. To do that, we use the character class, character dot toString, and then pass this character. So this is another way of checking to see if this string contains the current character. Now I'm going to revert this to the simpler implementation in case you're not a Java developer and you don't want to learn about all these things. So here we check to see if vowels.index of character does not equal -1. Most languages have support for this method. So if the current character is a vowel, then we need to increment the count. Now, instead of a string, we could also use a set because sets are ideal for looking up values. They can quickly tell us if they contain a particular value. So if you're dealing with a really large string, it is better to use a set rather than a string because if you want to look up a value in this string, we have to iterate over every character and check to see if this character is what we're looking for. All right, let's move on. So once we calculate the count, then we return it over here. Now let's test our implementation. So back in the main class, I'm going to call string utils.count vowels. Let's say hello world. How many vowels do we have here? We have one E, we have one O, and another O. So 3. Let's store the result in this variable count and then print it on the console. So we get 3. Now with strings, we should always check for edge cases like uppercase and lowercase characters, white spaces, empty strings, nulls, and so on. So what if we make this O capital? Let's see what we get. We get 2. So our algorithm is not working properly. To fix this, we go back to our implementation. So just before converting this string to a character array, we need to convert it to lowercase because all these vowels we have stored here are in lowercase, okay? Now let's run the program one more time. Now we get 3, beautiful. What if we pass a string with a bunch of white spaces? We get 0, that's perfect. What if we pass an empty string? No problem. What if we pass null here? We get a null pointer exception, so we need to fix this. Back to our string utils class. The first thing we want to check here is check to see if string is null. Then we return 0. Let's test the program one more time. There you go. So this is how we count the number of vowels in a string.